All right, so we're going to start fairly soon. We have a lot of people coming in right now, but just some housekeeping notes. First of all, welcome back to those that are coming into week 2 of Sinking Threes from the Bench. Please mute as soon as you come in. And now Coach Missy West will be manning the chat. So please introduce yourself when you're there. We recognize a lot of these faces, some friendly faces. Also, please ask questions. We're going to have hopefully 20 minutes or more for questions. And if you have any additional topics you'd like for us to cover, we heard about confidence, we heard about resilience. I'm here to announce that we will be covering those after this first series. So we've heard you and we will be covering those. So because of the success and the attention, we're going to keep this going. We're getting as much out of it as you guys are. It's really great to be reconnected. So Sinking Threes from the Bench series continues starting now. Okay, my slide's not working. All right. This is the series, guys. I know Coach West went through it last week. Everyone is getting emailed the list where I'm not going to go through it again, and I will actually discuss who will be next at the end of this presentation. We have phenomenal speakers teaching different lessons each Wednesday. So please join us week after week. You will not be disappointed. So who am I? I am Colleen Healy. I'm the co-director of Beyond the Game Academy. If you were on the line last weekend, you learned a lot about the inception of Beyond the Game Academy. Coach West spent many years coaching at the Division III and Division II level. And she recognized that there are some gaps in preparing college players as student athletes. I, working in corporate America after spending a career as an athlete, recognized so many skills that I learned as an athlete applied to me in all of my careers, that when Coach West was getting inducted into the National High School Hall of Fame and had to write her induction speech, we worked on that speech together. And it dawned on us that there were so many lessons we wanted to pass on to not only student athletes, but to parents and everyone else around youth athletics, that there's so much more beyond the game itself of the points scored and the time on the court that provides life skills, that we created the Beyond the Game Academy. So one of my claim to fame is being the first walk-on awarded a full scholarship through Coach Auriemma and Coach Daly. I've also been recognized as a Trailblazer Award for Courage through the Women's Sports Museum, which is right now a concept. We're trying to build funds so that we can build a museum to tell all the stories of female athletes, from Billie Jean King to Venus Williams to Breonna Stewart. There is no house right now to tell that story. And believe me, these female athletes deserve a house. So I was recognized by the Women's Sports Museum. Coach Missy West and I continue to work with them. We'd love to share that dream with you further. So I am a 3-time Ironman finisher, a Boston Marathon qualifier, and a finisher of the Boston Marathon. So I am a lifetime athlete. And I spent the last 20 years in corporate America, mostly working with doctors and nurses and pharmacists. And because this is about gratitude and connection, I cannot go any further without thanking all of those people on the front lines right now, taking care of us. These are my personal friends. And I will say this at the beginning, the best way we can take care of them is by keeping our distance, staying home. And I want to thank them again for everything that they do. And that's not just the doctors and pharmacists and nurses. It's also those working at grocery stores. It's everyone who is an essential worker. Thank you so much. So we're all on the bench. For the first time, we're all on the bench. And coronavirus has done this to us, not just as a community, but as a globe. There aren't too many events in history that have connected us this way. In fact, every 4 years when I was younger, there was the Olympics. And we shared this connectivity through sport. We loved it so much that now the Olympics are every 2 years. We connect as a globe. Well, now we're connecting a very different way. And, the question is, how can we be happy when a lot of the things that we traditionally make us happy seem to be taken away from us? And the picture on the lower right is actually bison at Yellowstone. I took this picture from my windshield in Yellowstone a few months ago. And when you're in Yellowstone and when you're living life, quite frankly, there's going to be obstacles in the road. That's what we're facing right now. This is something we couldn't prepare for and we didn't see coming ahead of time, but we have to deal with it. And when you're at Yellowstone, you just park your car and you're patient and you wait. It's the right thing to do because you're in their house, quite frankly. So you sit there and you enjoy it. Well, right now, the best thing we can do is stay home, but we can make the most of it. And that's what today is all about. So some of the topics I'm going to cover are the science of well-being, like the actual science about happiness, my personal journey in applying some of the science I didn't even realize I was doing, and then helping you with some tools that you can use today for the rest of your life to practice happiness. So here's the science of well-being. This is the most popular course Yale has ever offered, and now they're offering it free online. Now, Coach West is going to send everybody who participates a PDF of everything I'm going to talk about, but please write notes because I'm a pure believer that when you write things in your own words, you actually absorb them. But this is Professor Laurie Santos, and I hope to get to meet her someday because there's no doubt in my mind that she's changed my life. And I'm going to teach you some of the key ingredients of what makes people happy. When you ask the happiest people on earth, some of the things they do, connection, gratitude, are two common areas that those people do every day. And so the good news is we can actually practice and create happiness. We can actually control that. I never really thought about it until the last few years. And now that I've gone through this course and I've made some changes in my life, there's no greater time to teach this and pass it on than today. So happiness takes practice. I actually went through the course. Now this is free, but if you want to get a certification in well-being, it is $49 and it was worth it. So I am now certified in the science of well-being. That's pretty cool. So this story begins when I picked up a phone that looked like that, and only some of the parents and participants recognize that phone, and I called this man who looked like that at the time when I called him. But I need to take a few steps back. So when I was in high school, I was a pretty successful athlete. I was all-state in softball and basketball. I scored over 1,000 points as a basketball player, and I actually was not a very good student. And it's embarrassing to admit it wasn't because I didn't try. I actually did try. I just had a real difficulty specifically in math. And coaches and teachers had said, you know, she'll never pass a class in college and she's not good enough to play in college. I was in high school when I was told that. And there's two things you can do when people doubt you. You can either prove them right or you prove them wrong. I thankfully was fiery and Irish and I wanted to prove them wrong. And thankfully, University of New Haven offered me a scholarship in Division II to play basketball and softball. And something happened in my family, and those people that are part of the Beyond the Game family, you know this story. I'm not telling it today because we don't have time, but in a future presentation, I will. And I realized at the age of 18, I wanted to see if I was better. I really wanted to challenge myself to see, you know, am I good enough? And am I smart enough to pass class in a big school to play Division I? So I left University of New Haven, which was a good school and it was challenging. And I went to Eastern Connecticut State University, Division III school, right in my hometown. And that semester, we won a national championship in softball under Coach Jeff Anderson. And I got to share that with some high school teammates. And it was a great experience. But that's not where I wanted to be. That wasn't my path. It was the path for some people. It was a great school. I wanted to play Division I basketball. That's when I picked up the phone that summer. And I called Coach Auriemma and I said, Coach, I'd like to play for your team. You know, can I try out? He was very honest. And he said, you have to sit out a year. Do you want to be the manager? Now, mind you, I just won a national championship. I'd scored 1,000 points in high school. I was a starting point guard as a freshman, Division II, second highest scorer, playing the most time on the court. And I said, yes, I'd be happy to play. I mean, I'd be happy to try out. I mean, I'd be happy to be the manager. He said, there's no guarantee. No guarantee, but I knew I needed to know this for myself. And so I did. I transferred to UCONN. And this is Gampa Pavilion. And underneath that sound system, you see a dark square, and that's where the lights are turned on. That's where I would go at 6 in the morning to turn the lights on before practice. I wasn't going to be putting a uniform on. In fact, I'd have to clean the floor first and fill the water bottles. I would sit there at 6 in the morning, and it's cold, and you hear every echo, and look down at that court and wonder if I would ever play again. I didn't know if I would play. It was the loneliest and scariest time of my life because the greatest connection I'd ever had was playing sports. And so it was a lonely year, but it was also the greatest gift because right now we're feeling all the things that we miss about school, about our friends, about walking down the street, going to the movies, all the things that we took for granted. I had done that in basketball. Sitting on the bench as a manager for a year made me realize all the other benefits of the game, the teammates, being in the crowd, experiencing the game with people. And so while it was the loneliest time of my life, I took advantage of it in several ways. I mentioned I wasn't a good student. Well, I thought the best way to increase my odds to make the team the next day was to become a great student. I would never miss class. In fact, I took such great notes that my classmates asked to borrow my notes. I was a Dean's List student by the time I got to walk on to that team. And so in these moments while we're stuck home, what are we doing in areas that we're not strong at? How are we taking advantage of that time? Like Coach West said, this was my year to do that. All the while missing the game, getting to be a better student, all the while understanding the system. And so that time was necessary. It was a necessary discomfort and vulnerability, meaning there was no guarantee. I took a risk not knowing what the end result would be, but I did everything I could to increase my odds that the odds would be better because I did everything in my control to possibly make that team the next year. And sometimes we have to do these things. We need to take these risks to see what we're made of. So what kept me going during that time was my connection of memories of the game. The things that I missed, the teammates I missed, the high fives, the making the shot, the cheering on the teammate when I'm on the bench who just made the three, who doesn't normally make the three. And the good news, we can do that right now. We can connect to memories to actually increase our happiness. And there's a study that I learned through the science of well-being, and this is something that we can all do, where people were asked to replay a memory in their minds like they were like a recording, like a movie, one memory. It could be a happy time. It doesn't have to be sport related. It could be family related. It could be anything you can think of. It could be just a funny story. Play it 8 minutes a day for 3 days in a row. And what they found was that savoring that memory, and what savoring means is like when you eat ice cream and you're like, that's so good. You're savoring it. Savoring that memory for 8 minutes a day, 3 days a week, increased happiness. And it didn't just increase happiness minutes later, it increased happiness 4 weeks later. So that's one thing I'm going to ask you guys to do. This is scientifically based. It was something I did at UConn, not knowing it was evidence-based, but it works. Here's another thing. We're feeling out of sorts right now because when we experience moments with other people, it amplifies the experience. That's why we go to concerts and we see them live. That's why going to games and being in the crowd when something amazing happens, you feel the electricity. And so to prove this, they did a study with chocolate bars. They put an individual person in a room and they gave them a chocolate bar and they said, rank the taste of that chocolate bar from 0 to 10. And so they ranked it. These people look like this. Then they put them in a room, 2 strangers, eating the same chocolate bar. They just changed the wrapper. They didn't talk to one another, they just ate a chocolate bars standing next to one another. And when they were asked to rank the same chocolate bar, they both said it tasted better. And this is just human science. When we do things with other people, those experiences are actually amplified. And so why we're missing one another is because we take for granted when we're walking down the sidewalk and a stranger's coming the other way and a butterfly or something flies in between us and we both smile at one another. That connection actually makes us happy. And we're missing those day-to-day connections. So it's normal to feel the way that you feel. So that's why we have to practice while we're in this situation of creating happiness. Here's the results. So A, for connection. We have to block off time for this. We have a lot of time right now to do it. I mentioned the first thing that you can do. 8 minutes a day for 3 days. I propose to you after the 3 days, first of all, write down what the story is, log how you feel after, do it for 3 days and say how you feel about it, then change the story. You don't have to stop it after 3 days. It just happened to be an experiment. If you do this, it will create happiness. It's scientifically proven. Social connections. Everyone's getting creative about FaceTime or Zoom. I can tell you, if we had this quarantine when I was a kid, I'd be handwriting letters, looking at mailing it out, and 7 days later, my friend would know how I'm feeling, or I'd pick up that old phone, but there was only one phone in the house. So my brother and I'd be arguing over the phone. You guys have these cell phones and iPads. You've got ways to connect in a way we couldn't do, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So share a movie together, but break it up by 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes, you stop, you guys make popcorn, you FaceTime. What do you think about this? There's a couple of sports movies. Rudy is a really great sports movie. It's an old movie. I totally relate to it. We can give you ideas. Share those with your friends or your teammates, and you're sharing the experiences, but you're sharing them separately. You can make a meal together, spaghetti. There's a lot of ways we can use social media now to actually create these connections. And just by doing them separate and together, we're actually creating happiness. You can do this with your teams. Now, we're talking a lot about athletics, but trust me, this stuff works in corporate America. For the parents there, you can improve the culture of where you work based on these things. You can coordinate with your teams, particularly any sport in this case. Find a drill. We have Coach G that's going to be on next week giving you some basketball drills. Share the video with everyone, not just your friends on the team, but anyone who's on the team. And say, hey guys, we're all going to practice this week. Video yourself. You can have competitions. How many foul shots you made, how many, layups you made, how many layups you made in time. Make a competition out of it. Keeps you in contact with your team. Some other teams practicing if you aren't, and it allows you to connect. I'm going to talk about the kindness piece later. Let me move on to gratitude. So gratitude, why is it important for us to practice gratitude? Well, we need to focus on what we have. A lot of us are focusing on what we don't have. I can't leave. I can't go to the movies. I can't see my friend. I can't go to school. We need to go back into what we do have. Those things are out of our control right now. What can I control right now to make me happy? What do I have to be grateful for? Well, something that's human nature is we get used to things. We do. We adapt to things. We lose interest. Adapting is like when you get in the pool and it's cold, and over time it warms up. You're like, hey, come in. It's cold at first, but you get used to it. We do that with things in our life. Think about the gift you wanted for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever. Ugg boots, about basketball, maybe it was a video game. You were anticipating that gift. Then you got the gift and you played with it for a week. Where's that gift now? Can you even remember 5 gifts that you got? Right? So we get used to things. We get used to the fact that we can make foul shots now, or we get used to the fact that we can present. And, it's good because we have a growth mindset. We want to get to the next thing. I want to make a 3-point shot. I want to be a better presenter. That's good. But right now we need to go back to the things we've achieved. We need to go back to when I was a little girl and I couldn't hit the rim. I couldn't make a layup. I couldn't make a left-hand layup. And so how do we avoid adaptation? How do we avoid getting used to things and taking them for granted? There's 3 ways. You change your comparison. You can create a gratitude journal. You can express gratitude to others. So let me give you an example of comparison. They did a study where they put potato chips next to a chocolate bar. And they said, rank the potato chips. How do you feel about them right now? How attractive are the chips? Well, next to a chocolate bar, maybe they're a 5, right? Because it's compared to a chocolate bar. So then they put the potato chips next to sardines, which are fish. Like, well, how do the chips look now? The chips are a 10 next to raw fish, right? So sometimes right now, it's not ideal. We don't want to be stuck home, but I have food to eat. I have FaceTime. I don't have to handwrite my letters. I'm healthy. It could be worse. It really can. But sometimes we proactively have to remind ourselves how good we've got it. That you're healthy, that you have a safe place to live, that you're warm, that you have food to eat, that you have friends. This is the time to do that. Gratitude journal. I'm a huge believer in this, and I have one myself. And there's proof behind it. So writing your 5 things a day you're grateful for. Okay. It could be morning. It could be night. But writing 5 things a day that you're grateful for improves happiness. And in fact, when you do that, it improves other areas of your life that make you happy. People that wrote in gratitude journals actually exercise more. They're not related at all. But when you start being grateful for the things in your life, you start doing other things in your life that are actually good for you, for your well-being and your happiness. So the next thing is expressing gratitude. This is one of the strongest ways to not only increase your happiness, but others. Tell someone thank you or good job. Hand delivering a thank you note is the most powerful. We can't do that right now, but I ask you to do this. Think of someone who did something that really changed your day or your life or a decision, or it's just good to you at the right time. Write it down. Hand deliver it. It could be a teacher, it could be a coach, it could be a friend, it could be your parent, an aunt. And when they receive that, when they open it and read it, the happiness that that gratitude letter creates actually lasts up to 8 months. It's one of the most powerful ways, and you feel good too. That's simple and it's free. And for those of you that are adults, and I know there's some of them, some people I've worked with that are actually on this call right now, there was a study where a manager thanked 50% of his employees who were fundraisers. They had to make phone calls and ask for money. So they were telemarketers, they were asking for money, and a manager went up to half of them and said, I'm so grateful for your hard work. And he didn't say that to the other half. And the people that he said, I'm so grateful for your hard work, increased their calls by 50% and increased their sales by 50%. Now, I say this to the coaches as well, because sometimes we get used to the kid that always gets it done. Sometimes we get used to the kid that always, makes their foul shots, always shows up and works hard, and we forget to pat that kid on the back. And I'm telling you, that kid getting that pat on the back is just enough incentive to keep them going. It goes a long way. That attaboy, I don't care if it's on a team of teenagers or youth or in corporate America, this goes a long way in motivating people to work hard and make you happier. Here's my gratitude story. I talked about that year of loneliness and scariness. Every time that I got down and low, I reminded myself of how good it will be if I make that team. It'll be worth it. I had to dig into memories. I made the team, and there's some great stories in that time that I will share when it comes to confidence and resilience. But my senior year, we were playing Seton Hall, and Rebecca Lobo was not having a good game. In fact, the day that I tried out for the team was the first day of Rebecca Lobo's career as a freshman at UConn. So I played 3 years with her. We were losing to Seton Hall, and we shouldn't have been losing. And with a few minutes left, and Coach Auriemma tried everything from encouraging her to getting on her. It was just a bad day. And Coach Auriemma took her out of the game, and we were losing. And I was upset because I felt he gave up. And even worse, he went to put me in. As if we surrender, we're putting Colleen in, the walk-on, right? And I was fiery. And I was getting my Irish up. And I was upset. We lost that game at Seton Hall, and we got on a bus, and it was snowing, and we drove home to Gampa Pavilion. We arrived at 1:32 a.m., and Coach Auriemma said, we have practice at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I was so mad that I was going to quit. I never told this story to anyone from Beyond the Game Academy, but I was ready to quit because, you know what, I've already made it. And I'm a Dean's List student. I've proven everyone wrong. I made the team. I have a scholarship. I'm going to quit my senior year. And I walked in the gym and I walked to the left-hand side to shoot foul shots. That's how I started. All the really great players, they shot their foul shots on the main court. I was over to the side, and Jen Rosati walked up to me, my teammate, and said, don't quit, we need you. I never even told her I was going to quit. She knew me well enough that I was not myself. I was emotional and I was going to make a bad decision. And so I almost cried, and I went back to the free throw line after, getting my own rebound after missing the foul shot. She came back again and said, Kyle, I need you on this team. You need to stay. And I did. That next year, Jen Rosati would be the first women's basketball player to cover Sports Illustrated when UConn won the national championship. Jen Rosati will also be the assistant coach for the USA Olympic team. And there's Stewie right there. So you talk about people that are disappointed right now, people that prepare for the Olympics for years. And, basketball is one thing, but if you're a rower or other sports where this delay may prevent you from ever being in the Olympics, they're really feeling that. It's really a dream that may not happen now, and this team is feeling it. But Jen Rosati will be representing, the United States of America in 2021. And here's Jen and another teammate of mine, Carla Berube, who's the head coach at Princeton University now. And what I say to myself is, imagine how different my life would have been if I had quit. And I say this to all of you who are thinking about quitting for emotional reasons. You're not playing, you're not getting enough time, you're not scoring enough points, you think you want to spend time with your friends more. I'm telling you now, the benefits and the friendships and the sisterhood and the skills that you learn by sticking to it are so worth it. And I'm so grateful. This is one person that every time I see her, I'm so grateful she did this to me on that day. And so block time off for gratitude. I talked about the gratitude journal. You can do it morning or night, or you can do both. Start the day off right. Here are the things I'm grateful for, and I'm going to have a great day. I do that still. Write them down at the end of the day. Man, what a great day it was. Here's the things I'm grateful for. This shouldn't be work. I mean, you are practicing, but you know what the end result is. The end result is you're going to be happier just by putting that down on paper. I ask you to try this. We're probably one of the positive things of coronavirus is we might be sharing meals with our family. And practice this around the table before you eat. You know, mom, what are you grateful for? Dad, what are you grateful for? Or sister, or brother. Maybe there's just two of you, mom or dad. Maybe it's grandma. Maybe whoever you eat a meal with, make this part of your culture. It becomes a habit that every time we sit down, we say one thing we're grateful for. And the joy is there. Team gratitude exercise. I know some college coaches that do this. You know, at the end of practice, they ask one player, tell me something you're grateful for somebody else on the team. And I'm asking the teammates, the team, to incorporate your coach. Coach is part of the team. You know, so coach, you need to get involved in this. The culture is not just you, then the team. It's a team and coach. It's us and him or her. And so this is a great practice to build culture, to build trust, to build one another up, to fill the emotional tank. And the gratitude letter I already shared with you. So here's some things. This is the evolution of my gratitude. That is me. Yeah, it's awesome. So I was a tomboy, and no, people weren't sure if I was a girl or boy. Like back then, there weren't a lot of girls that played sports. This is me playing in farm league. This is my farm league picture. I've got my dad's ears. They're sticking out of the hat. You know, here's what I was grateful for at that age, my family. I was able to play on the boys basketball team at St. Mary's St. Joseph's because my parents let me. I was the only girl. I made the team, and then I tried out for Fiddler on the Roof to be Tevye, the male role. And my parents are like, that's awesome. Not every parent would do that. But because they allowed me to do it, I'm so grateful, because then I'm like, well, if I could do that, I can try this as well. My friends, playing with the 7 boys that were my age 1 mile away. They allowed me to compete with them. They built my confidence. I'm still friends with them to this day. Going to school. You know, I wasn't a good student, but I would get perfect attendance because of the connection. Because I loved making people laugh, but I loved my friends. I liked being in plays, and that was St. Mary's St. Joseph School. My material possession was my bike. Why? Because I got to ride my bike a mile to hang out with my friends, to play sports and connect. And the last was a record player. You might want to look what that is. When I was younger, I had a record player. I always loved music. It always made me happy. So that was my gratitude when I was younger. When I was in college, family still. When I left New Haven and then Eastern and called Coach Auriemma, my parents had to support that because I was on scholarship and my parents did not have the money for me to go to college. They had to figure out a way to allow me to follow my path. And I'm so grateful that they trusted me. But I'm telling you guys, if you're going to take risks like that, prove your parents right. If you want to take a risk and I ask you to do it, work hard. Prove them right. My friends playing sports, still the same thing when I was younger. UCONN women's basketball, but now academics. I wasn't grateful for that when I was younger, but I learned how to get better at it. And it took a lot of pride. I graduated with honors from UCONN. The girl that couldn't pass a class. I proved them wrong. My car. Why my car? Because I could get to my friends and I could get to my family. And lastly, 80s music, which is still my jam. It's like the best decade of music ever, but now my cassette player. So this music that made me feel connected. So what about today? Still family, this extended family, the ones that I've grabbed along the way. from friends from home, friends from grammar school, teammates from Eastern, teammates from, UConn, and people I've worked with. This is my family that is not by blood, but by adoption. I could not be more lucky to have the team or the family that I have, which includes the friendships carried over. And now my neighbors. And we've been quarantined for 4 weeks. Missy is an at-risk person. And every time my neighbors leave our building, they text us, is there anything we can get you? Well, I mean, we are so lucky that way. I have a healthy body. I'm telling you now, you think your whole life, I can always run. I'll always be able to run fast. You won't always be able to run fast. I can't run fast any longer, but I'm glad I have a body to do the things I want to do, and I'm really grateful for that. And then storytelling. All of this risk-taking and working hard has allowed me to tell these stories to you. And I'm so grateful that you're here to listen to them. So this is my actual Google Calendar, color-coded. And everything in yellow is my happiness self-care plan. So I have gratitude first thing in the morning. Sometimes you'll see things shift because things happen in my life that I need to rotate. I try to get a workout around lunchtime, but again, if I have a work call or someone calls me, I have to shift it. I have meditation at 7 o'clock. That's when I try to wind my brain down. I meditate outside in the balcony. And then I have family time from 8 to 9. Now, it doesn't always happen, but the plan is to make it happen. The plan is to fit this in somehow during the day, even if I have to change it. The other things that are here is BTGA. I'm taking courses with Stanford right now, Stanford University. So I have my classes on here. And then I have Connection. In orange, you'll see Jeopardy at 7:30. And I used to watch Jeopardy with my dad. And when I was younger, I couldn't answer any of the questions, but as I got older, I could. And when we weren't living near one another anymore, at the end of Jeopardy, we'd call each other and say, did you get the last one? Well, he's no longer here with me, but I still try to play Jeopardy every night by myself because Coach West doesn't like to play. It's a whole other call, but this is my time with my dad. So I'm not saying you have to do it this way. I actually additionally have a calendar. So I do both. I like to write things down. I like to plan them, but I also have it on my Google Calendar. And then if something comes up that's work related, I can't shift, then, I move that over, my self-care, but I try to do a few things every day towards that. So here it is. These are proven well-being practices. We talked about gratitude today. I'm telling you, if you practice this, you will be happier. What does everybody want, no matter where you live across the globe? Why does everyone work hard? Whether it's on the court or at work or in school, in the end, we really want to be happy. It's the common denominator of everything we do. And here are the things that you can do that actually get you there. Gratitude, social connection, exercise, sleep, kindness, meditation, and better wants. Now, we didn't cover some of these. I hope we do over the series. But these are important things that are under your control. When coronavirus takes some control out of your life, you ask yourself, what can I do to control my happiness, to increase not only my happiness, but by doing these things, you increase the happiness of the people around you. So my final thought is practice happiness because you're worth it, right? You are worth the investment of being happy. And I hope that you will apply some of these tools, and I hope you'll share them with Coach West and I in future chats or, additional connections that we have, because they work. I know because I do them myself, and I can definitely see my ability to put things in perspective when things get difficult. And so I do want to open it up to questions. I hope that you found something, regardless of your age, regardless of, if you're a student or if you're working. Trust me, these are things that I applied along my life. I'm doing them now more than ever, and they work. And thank you so much for being here tonight. So what we have next, I'm going to open it up to Coach Missy West. You're going to join us for Q&A. So what's up next is Coach Gianna Vistola, and she's the director of the G League in Sarasota. She's going to be sharing, specific skills, basketball skills that you can be doing at home. So that's next Monday. Okay, so we shifted from Wednesday to Monday for next week. We'll be sending all the alerts out. And then after that, Amber Gompert, a lot of the BTGA folks know who she is. She's going to be presenting on nutrition and provide a fitness workout at home. because we've got a lot of questions about what can I do at home to stay in shape. This girl will whip you into shape. I think you know that, particularly if you came to our academy, because I know we were all pretty sore after she made us go through some of these drills. So Coach West, are you there? Because I show you're muted still. Welcome to the, here you are. Hi.
Hello. I'm going to have you, so I hope you tune in. Monday is going to be awesome, specifically athletes and coaches. Coach G is going to be awesome. She's really, we've had a lot of requests for basketball skills and drills, and I sent out a little bit last week to most of you. But these are going to be some new things. We're really excited about that. So please tune in for Coach G. And then Amber, of course, she'll be shortly after on Wednesday. So that's next week. So go ahead and flip to the next slide if you can. Just a reminder, Beyond the Game Academy is, we're still moving forward with it. We're still accepting registrations. Again, don't feel the need to pay for right now, but just wanted to let you know about that. And so let's answer some questions. Move forward to that next slide too. Perfect. Okay. So one of the questions that was asked is, what is your favorite lesson from Coach Auriemma?
Oh, that's a great question.
That was from Lisa. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. The first is how important every person is on the bench. I will share my story of being the walk-on and then having my moment on the court, and the confidence that I had to deliver when that opportunity came had everything to do with Coach Auriemma treating everyone with respect. If you were the starter and you scored the most points, to the last person off the bench. I've carried that into my personal life and my professional life. I treat everyone with respect. And everyone, first of all, deserves it, but you will get the most out of everyone if you treat them with respect. So I learned that, and I'm grateful because I was the one at the end of the bench. He builds a culture so that everyone treats everyone with encouragement, so that even though you may not be the tallest, fastest, most talented, you have something to contribute to that team, and that's why you're there. And as long as you do, you will be treated with respect. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, I left Division II scholarship and I went to Division III in my hometown, literally across the street from my parents' house, where I won a national championship in softball. I didn't win it. I won it with my team. I was on the team that won. And I took a big risk in leaving all of that, hoping I could play for his team. He had to give me the chance by allowing me to walk on. And then when I did the hard work and continued to show up day after day, he rewarded me with a scholarship. He didn't have to do that. This algorithm of take risks, work hard, and great things will happen came from Coach Auriemma, allowing me that opportunity to make something great happen. Now, he had to give me that opportunity, but I learned in life, if you take risks and you work hard, good things will happen. It may not be what you expected, and it may not happen in the time that you want, but I assure you, if you do that with everything you do, great things will happen. And those are probably the two things he taught me. But the greatest gift from UConn are the sisters of, Jen Rosati and Carla and Rebecca and all of that. Like, the experience was great, but the older you get, the friendships that you get from sports participation is by far the greatest gift that you can get overall. So I hope that answers your question.
What do you consider to be the responsibility of the athlete in creating, facilitating connections with the coach? I thought that was a fantastic question.
I think it's a great question. And I picked up the phone and called Coach Auriemma. So, that took a lot of courage. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't building up my courage. I just knew it's something I needed to do. So I didn't think twice about it. When I reflect back now, I say to myself, wow, not too many kids would do that at the age of 19. But I think, let's say, for instance, one, are you working hard? Are you showing up every day? Are you giving everything? And you're just not getting the playing time and you're not sure why? Because sometimes we get so caught up, and coaches do too, that they're just not seeing it. And so maturely, if you can have a conversation with your coach and say, Coach, I show up every week, my foul shots are getting better. I work hard. I'm a good defender. And what do I need? can I get more playing time? I think coach would respect you for being able to have that conversation, but you better be putting the time in, right? That's one. Having conversations, mature, prepared conversations with your coach, I think will be welcomed. If again, you're putting the work in and you're a contributor. I mean, contributor like clapping your hands, encouraging your teammates and working hard. Okay. I, I suggest not having your parent do that. The more that you can stand up to yourself, if you can do that to a high school coach, have a mature conversation, next time when you have a boss or a professor in college and you have to have an uncomfortable conversation, you're not doing well in a class, you'll be like, I've done this before. You put it in your confidence bank, like the ATM. So when you can do that, as a high school player, first of all, I think they'll welcome it. Secondly, it builds confidence to have those conversations in the future, whether it's in college or in corporate America or, whatever your career is. And those things will pay off in dividends, in the future. So having that conversation yourself, but be prepared that you're doing the work and that you've earned the right to ask those questions.
Right. I think earning it is a big piece of that. Right. I'm actually taking a course right now from UPenn on the name of the course is Resilience. And one of the things they talked about, and I learned this morning, is, not to be a mind reader. How do we become less confident and less resilient? Is that we try to read minds. Right. And when we guess what the coach is thinking, the coach is not playing me because I'm not good enough, or he doesn't like me, or she doesn't like me. And we start playing these games with ourselves. But if we've worked hard and we earn the right to ask the question, then what we say is have the courage to sit down, be mature, and have a respectful conversation with that coach. Why? Because you'll have an answer. Right.
Yeah.
You'll walk away with an answer. It's not a guessing game. It doesn't put those doubts in your mind. You get that, answer, and you can move forward with that. But
That's
a lot
right.
of times we play games with ourselves because we think, so such and such a player doesn't like us, a coach doesn't like us. And that just makes us not enjoy the game as much.
Right.
Right. And then that's when we start thinking, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I shouldn't, be playing on this team, rather than just having that respectful conversation. So
Yeah, I'll say one more thing. And one, try to take the emotion out of it. Adults have a hard time too. Like when your feelings are being hurt because you're not playing, this takes practice, right? Don't ask the coach when you're upset. Don't ask the coach when you're mad. Sit back, breathe, create a plan, write it down, practice it, and then have a mature conversation. This is for adults too. It's a challenge to do it, but once you've done it, like I said, that's what builds confidence. Okay. And you'll get the respect of your coach. So that's a really good question.
let me see. What are you most proud of? Julia asked this question.
What am I most proud of? This is a good question. I talked a lot about the friends, the family friends. I just have such an amazing group of friends in my life. I know I'm a storyteller and I can make people laugh, but I am so proud of the people I've surrounded myself with, or the people that that even surround themselves with me. I don't know if I'm even worthy of all of it, but I'm really proud of this extended family. I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of making the most of things. It takes practice, like really being in the moments and making the most of a moment, whether it's in a business meeting where I could be bored out of my mind, or I just try to get something out of it. I always say you have to be there anyway. Like you have to be at school anyway. You have to be at practice anyway. You might as well make the most of it and get something out of it. And I think when I was even younger, I just tried to make the most of it. I'm really proud I graduated cum laude from UConn when people said I couldn't pass a class in college. And lastly, I'm proud that I'm taking classes at Stanford right now. I'm taking a finance course. We're going to cut this part out of the enduring video, but I failed Algebra 2 twice. So, I am not strong in math. I'm admitting that, but I will never put that on the final video. So me taking on Stanford courses right now to better myself, I'm proud of that, because I don't have to be this uncomfortable anymore, but I really want to continue to grow. And, but mostly the friends and the people around me, which means I must be doing something right if these wonderful people want to be in my life. So that
Yeah.
might
And
be, or,
no, I mean, just to kind of go along with that, I see Colleen every single day, and she inspires and uplifts and encourages me to learn and grow every single day. Here we are in quarantine. We could, sit and relax and watch movies. I'm taking a class at UPenn. She's taking a class at Stanford. We created this webinar. We're connecting with people all the time. We're on meetings all throughout the day. And we make time to do the gratitude, and we make time to do the meditation and all of that. And, one thing about, and so Colleen's, taking this course at Stanford. What she didn't say is that she's also writing a book. She's writing a personal memoir, and she's been working on that for a few months, which hopefully will come out. She probably is maybe another year or so, or half a year, but she's towards the end of it, and she's doing that as well. Like, you saw her schedule and what she does, and it's constant. I've never seen or met anyone who, whatever she learns, it's never enough. She's got to learn more. She's got to, the whole financing, she's got to learn more about math and financing, and she's got to understand it, and she's got to understand why things are happening. I have never met anyone so determined and focused to learn and grow, especially, at her age, and you're not very old.
easy
I'm
about
just
at her age. You didn't
not
have
at
to go
your
that
age,
far about
but
the age.
what I'm saying is that it's just really inspiring. Like, what you see is what you get. And she doesn't even share half of the things that, what she does.
Okay. All right. Now,
But so that's another question that we have is actually just came in. Have you ever been injured?
As a college athlete, I broke my nose. It's another great story. I'll briefly tell you, I broke my nose against St. John's, and I had to have a mask made for my face. And those that have been part of Beyond the Game Academy is a great picture of my black eyes down to here in this mask. But we were playing on CBS for the first time in the history of the school days later. And I was wearing this ugly mask with these black eyes, and I was horrified. Now, I went in the game. Robin Roberts at the time was covering the game, and I didn't score a point. In fact, probably the only statistic was a turnover. I'm not really sure. But Robin Roberts kept saying, Colleen Healy, the spark plug, and because I had this mask on. And so sometimes these injuries, like Coach West shared last week, they actually are a blessing in disguise if we make the most of it. We may not know why it happens. So I didn't have anything that stopped me really from playing. I had really bad sprains, but I played through them. I will say as an adult, I've had injuries bad enough that I have a really hard time walking. And that still affects me because exercise to me is such a part of who I am. In fact, I get some of my greatest ideas when I'm in motion. My juices start flowing about presentations and work and things. So when I can't exercise, it really does affect my happiness. So as an adult, I've been seriously injured. That has put me on the bench. And I just do a better job, quite frankly, than I ever have in nutrition. Still not great at it, but nutrition, hydration, and doing physical therapy, things that I never did when I was younger and I took my body for granted, are things I have to do now. I think rest is so important for someone my age. When I was training for Ironman, you had to bike, swim, run, eat, and rest. Like, if you didn't do any of these correctly, you would not finish. And so I've gotten better at my old age, but getting through that. Coach West has better stories of having to sit out years for ACL tears. Thank God, knock on wood, I did not have to deal with that as a college player. So, well, you're taking all your other stuff. The rest,
everything else but the
ACL stayed intact, but everything else came up, basically.
Okay, maybe just a few more questions and we'll wrap it up. How did you get yourself noticed, not just to play at UConn, but to get other offers from schools?
I'm going to let you answer most of this question. I called Coach Auriemma. I know we as a society have turned into, texting and emailing and, but these even Zooms, but these conversations, when you have an actual conversation with somebody, it makes an impact. You can really put a best foot forward when you do that. And it says something about you as a person, that you will pick up the phone and say, Coach, you may not know I exist. I know your team exists. I have a game on such and such a day. I'd really like for you to come. Now, they may not come, but boy, when they hang up, they're like, that kid's got something. And that's a huge differentiator. You will be remembered if you can do something like that. So that was the difference for me. You know, New Haven noticed me because I played AAU. And again, I was all state in Connecticut. New Haven was in Connecticut. But, you know, Missy, as a college coach, you can answer this question better than I could, but making it more personal and being proactive. You know, you take control. Don't find me. I'm going to find you. And that's what I did. And it's, don't wait for life to find you. Like, you find your life and you go after it. It would be what I would suggest.
Yeah, absolutely. And we found that all the time when I was a college coach is, you know, players just sit around and they go and they play in these tournaments and they expect coaches just to spot them, to recognize them. I mean, and they don't take any self-initiative themselves, right? And then they say, well, how come you know, the coach doesn't know about me? How come I'm not getting looks? And you have to take that, you have to take action. And, you know, the cheapest thing that you can do is pick up your phone, right? And make that call, like Coach Healy just said, to pick up your phone and actually make the call, leave messages, share who you are, share what tournaments you're going to be playing on, share your schedule. And then, you know, also another thing is sending emails, a little less personal. Don't have your parents send the email, you send the email, and make sure things are spelled correctly, right? Because that's really important. When I was a coach and I used to receive emails, or I loved handwritten notes because it takes more time. So I know they really care. But I would check spelling because I felt like if they really wanted to come to my school and that our school was really important, that they were going to care about that they were going to take the time to make sure things were spelled correctly. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but that's how coaches are thinking now. And, you know, for me as a player to get to Duke University, I was, you know, fortunately my father was a coach when I was growing up, and he was way ahead of the game. I mean, he knew where I needed to be. He had me signed up for different tournaments. I actually spent my summers living in Albany. So I kind of got out of the North Country and I lived in Albany, where it was a bigger city around, you know, really talented players. I actually started that in 7th grade. So I was playing with Division I athletes really when I was in 7th grade, and it was scary. And, you know, I'm just so grateful because I was very fortunate in that regard. You know, and I'm very grateful for my father because he really put me at the right places at the right time. And actually how I was noticed at Duke was I played in a tournament in Maryland for a random team that asked me to come and play. And I was in Maryland. I ended up having a fantastic game. I think I had, 40 points and some crazy amount of rebounds. And Gail Gueston, course, was sitting in the stands and noticed me. And it was that next week, hey, you know, I get a call from Duke. We're really interested in you, want to offer you a full scholarship. Can we come for a home visit? Love to meet your family. And I was at the right place at the right time. But I think about all the free things that you can do, where it doesn't take a ton of travel, a ton of financial, you know, from your parents, is make the phone call. Yeah. Share who you are, right? And then, you know, I'm going to say this too, when you guys are out there playing, you're playing in these tournaments and you're playing at your high schools, you never know who is watching. I can't tell you how many times I have taken a person off my recruiting list because of their behaviors, because of how they respond to a coach, because of how they treat an official, a bad call against them, because of how they treat a teammate. And another thing that I do, and I'm actually doing another whole webinar here in a couple of weeks for Renee, is I watch the parents. I find out who is connected to who. Right. So I say, if I'm recruiting a girl, I will try to find out who their parents are and I'll watch their behaviors. And if they're crazy and they're, you know, screaming at the coach and they're blaming other teammates and they're pointing fingers at the officials, that girl doesn't even know they're being recruited by me and they get off my list. And so it's really a family, you know, thing. But again, back to the question, you know, do what's free first. Go after them. Don't wait for people to come to you. We got another great question. First of all, Shannon, she said, how grateful are you for your sponsors? We've had still sponsors or willing to sponsor us for our academy, and we're not even sure we're having it. So Shannon, we are so grateful for our sponsorships. You are what keeps us alive and growing and surviving. So thank you.
Well, hold on. On that note, we were
Yes.
talking today. We may have a creative alternative that we just talked about today. So it's very important for us to stay connected. So we'll be in touch if we come up with an alternative that we're formalizing now. So we hope to see you in person, but if we don't, we may have something else to do.
Yes. And so one more question, and then we're going to wrap this up. Carmia did ask, what do you do to manage your time? Carmia, I think you saw that with her calendar. It's very scheduled out. But the last question, when you spoke about setting time aside to think of a happy moment in life to create happiness, would you compare that in a similar way to taking time to visualize actions on the court?
I think they're two separate things, and I think they're both very effective. So there's one thing in remembering the past, okay? And that's what we're asking with the 8 minutes, 3 days in a row. Remember something that, just a great moment. It could be something funny that happened, you're fishing with your grandfather at the lake. It could be you made that foul shot and your team went crazy. It could be anything. I mean, I have a bunch of stories that just make me laugh. And if I played it over and over in my head, I'd probably laugh out loud. Like all of those emotions, those enzymes that are released will make you happy. I think that is separate from visualizing what I had to do at UConn, which was a combination of both. I was thinking about the past and how much happiness and joy and connection and friendships I had made before I left Eastern and New Haven, but I wanted at UConn. Okay, so it was both. Then I saw myself on the court. I stared at that court after I cleaned it and said, I'm going to be on that court. I'm going to be practicing. I'm going to shoot my foul shots. I'll be on the line someday. I saw myself being successful there. And it's two very different skills, two different things to practice, but very effective. And seeing yourself being successful puts you there. You got to put in the practice. You can't just dream and hope. That's seeing it is in addition to your practicing the physical, deliberate practice. The other piece that's, the 8 minutes, 3 days in a row is digging in those moments where you're having a hard time and reminding yourself of the goodness that you already have in your life when you feel like you're missing out on something. Okay, so those are two different things, but both of them effective, and I think you should apply them both. We have some great speakers coming up, and then Missy and I are going to be coming in with additional topics such as confidence and resilience. So stick with us. Stay the course. We'll get through this and we'll be stronger and better for it. Okay.
Connect, gratitude journal, be thankful. Things could be a lot worse for us right now.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
See you later.